Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today, we're all about C++ ban. Diving into this stack of articles you sent over about learning it, seems like you're ready to really dig in maybe for a new job, or are you just in it for the challenge?
Maybe a bit of both.
Probably. Either way, get ready because we're going to break down C++, what it's all about, why it still matters, and how mastering it could be what sets you apart in the tech world.
Yeah. And let's be real, C++, it can be a beast. It's super powerful, but all the jargon, all the technical details, it's easy to get lost. So think of us as your guides. We'll cut through the noise and focus on the core concepts that make C++ so valuable.
Perfect. Okay, so these articles you sent mention that C++ has been around since 1979.
Wow.
I know, right? Like, that's ancient history in the tech world, but it's still considered one of the most powerful languages out there. So what is it about C++ that keeps it relevant after all these years?
It's all about control. You see, C++ gives developers this really granular control over system resources, over performance. It's not just about driving the car. It's like having access to the engine itself.
So it's more like you're rebuilding the engine, fine-tuning it to get that peak performance.
Exactly. That's why you see C++ behind so many high-performance applications. Think web browsers, think game engines. But like you said, there's a trade-off.
Right, the whole C++ is a hard language thing. One article called it mental weightlifting for programmers.
I like that. Yeah, it's definitely challenging, but that's actually a good thing. You're forced to think deeply about how your code actually works. It's about understanding the why, not just the what, like with memory management, for instance.
Okay, so before we go any further, can you explain what exactly is memory management? Like, I think I have a vague idea, but why is it so important in the grand scheme of things?
Sure. So in the simplest terms, memory management is about how a computer stores and accesses data. Think of it like a massive warehouse. Now, in some languages, let's say Python, you have workers who automatically, find space for your goods, your data. They tidy up after you. It's great. But in C++ Wang, you are the warehouse manager. I
Oh,
decide where every single thing goes and when to get rid of it.
so it's more work, but you have a much better grasp of what's happening in the background.
Exactly. And while this manual approach might seem intimidating at first, it ultimately makes you a more efficient coder. You see the direct consequences of your code's actions, even down to the memory usage.
Got it. Now, there was this C++ code example in one of the articles about linked lists, right? And it used this analogy about understanding how an engine works.
Ah, yes. Linked lists are fascinating. They're like these fundamental building blocks for data structures. And building them from scratch in C++ Wing, it's like assembling an engine, piece by piece. You're not just driving, you're under the hood seeing how everything connects.
And the article mentioned that this gives you a big advantage in the long run, even if you end up using other languages in your career. How does that actually translate into like practical skills?
Let's stick with the engine analogy. Of course, you can be an amazing driver without knowing how an engine works, right?
Yeah.
But imagine there's a problem. Now, the mechanic who understand each part, how they work together, they'll diagnose that issue way faster than someone who only knows how to drive.
So it's like you're getting this X-ray vision into your code, makes you a better debugger, better problem solver.
Precisely. That's the real beauty of C++ Way. It's not just about learning the language. It's about developing this deeper understanding of how software works with hardware at a fundamental level.
So that's kind of the why behind C++I, the why it matters. But let's talk about the what. A lot of your research mentioned that C++ is really valuable in the job market, even today. Is that really true?
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. C++ is used in all those industries where performance is critical. Game development, high-frequency trading, even the software that powers those self-driving cars we're starting to see pop up. Those fields need speed and efficiency, and that's where C++ shines.
Which reminds me, one of the articles you sent actually had the C++ interview question, something about reversing a linked list. Is that the kind of thing employers are really looking for?
Oh yeah, it's a classic. And for good reason. That question, it goes way beyond just, knowing the syntax. Being able to solve it in C++, it shows you understand data structures, you understand algorithms, and how to really write efficient code. That's gold to any employer.
So even if my dream job isn't writing C++ every single day, having that foundation on my resume, it's a big signal, right? It tells them, okay, this person can handle complex problems, they're a fast learner.
Exactly. Think of it like having a black belt in programming. It shows you've gone through the training, you can handle yourself in any coding situation.
So it's less about being a C++ guru and more about those core principles that make it so powerful. Kind of like, I don't know, learning Latin to help you understand all the Romance languages.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Just like Latin gives you the foundation, the structure of those languages, C++ gives you that deeper understanding of how software interacts with the hardware.
Okay, but C++ has been around for decades. There are all these new languages coming out all the time. Is there a risk that it becomes, I don't know, outdated? Am I betting on the wrong horse here?
Not at all. C++ has really stood the test of time, and that's because it's always evolving. They're constantly refining it, adding new features to keep pace with, the demands of modern programming.
One of the articles mentioned something called C++ 20. Is that what you're talking about? It sounded like a major update, but the details were, well, honestly, a bit over my head.
Yeah, C++ 20 is a big one. It brought in a lot of exciting new features. One of the most interesting is something called concepts.
I remember seeing that. It definitely caught my eye, but I wasn't quite sure what to make of it.
Basically, it's all about making your code more robust, less prone to errors.
Yeah.
Imagine you have a function and it's supposed to add two numbers together. With concepts, you can actually specify that. Say, hey, this function, it only takes numbers. So if you accidentally try to feed it something else, some text, the compiler will catch it right away and prevent those bugs.
So it's like having a super spell check for your code, catching those typos before they cause any real problems.
That's a great way to put it. C++ 20 is all about making the language more powerful, more user-friendly, all while keeping it safe and up to date.
Sounds like a win for developers. But from everything we've talked about, C++ isn't exactly known for being easy to learn. What are some of the biggest hurdles, especially for someone just starting out?
Right. Well, with great power comes, a bit of a learning curve. C++ gives you a lot of control, which means there's more to manage, more you can potentially mess up. Memory management, pointers, the syntax itself, those can all be tricky for beginners.
Especially if you're coming from those higher level languages where a lot of that is taken care of for you. It's like going from an automatic transmission to driving stick shift, right?
Yeah. And just like learning to drive stick, C++ takes practice. Got to be patient, willing to make those mistakes, and most importantly, learn from them.
So how do you avoid getting overwhelmed? What's the best approach to learning C++ without feeling completely lost?
My advice, don't try to do everything at once. Break it down into smaller steps. Start with the basics. Get comfortable with how to write C++ code. Understand variables and data types. Once you have that solid foundation, you can move on to the more challenging stuff, like pointers and memory management.
So it's like you don't start building a skyscraper from the top down, right?
Yeah.
You got to lay those foundations first.
Exactly. And just like any big project, having the right tools or the right resources, those can make a huge difference.
Speaking of which, are there any books or websites, maybe even online courses you'd recommend for someone just getting started with C++F?
Absolutely. For beginners, you really can't go wrong with programming. Principles and Practice, using C++ by Bjarne Stroustrup.
Isn't he like the godfather of C++?
He invented the language. So, yeah, going straight to the source there. But if you prefer something more interactive, there are tons of online resources.
Yeah, I'm more of a visual learner myself. Those interactive courses really work for me.
Websites like Codecademy, Udemy, Coursera, they all have great C++ courses. They let you learn at your own pace, and you actually get to write code, which is key. Honestly, practice is the best teacher. The more you code, the more comfortable you'll become. It's really like learning an instrument. Got to put in the time.
Makes sense. So say I'm starting this C++ journey. What are some of the cool things I could actually build once I have a decent grasp on the language?
Yeah.
Like real world stuff, something to get me inspired.
Oh, man, the possibilities are endless. That's what's so amazing about C++, right? It's like once you know how to use it, you can build almost anything.
Okay, now I'm excited. Give me some examples.
Well, think about video games, right? A lot of those popular game engines, things like Unreal Engine, Unity, they're built with C++A. They need that raw power, that speed, to handle those really complex games.
Wow. So even just browsing the web, something we all do every day, there's a good chance C++ is involved somewhere.
Exactly. It's everywhere. And it's not just software for computers either. C++ is used in robotics, artificial intelligence, even high-performance computing. It's pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
So learning C++, it's not just about a specific job. It's more like you're opening up all these doors.
That's the beauty of it. It gives you these skills that apply to so many different fields, so many different technologies, and, you also get to be part of this amazing community.
That's something that doesn't always get mentioned, right? What's so special about the C++ community?
It's known for being super collaborative. People are always willing to share what they know. You've got online forums, chat groups, even local meetups where you can connect with other programmers, ask questions, get help with your projects. It's really cool.
It's like having this global support system helping you every step of the way.
Exactly. And that can be invaluable, especially when you're stuck on a tough problem or trying to wrap your head around a new concept.
So to sum it all up, it sounds like learning C++, it's more than just, checking a box on your resume. It's this challenging but ultimately rewarding journey.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, there you have it, your deep dive into the world of C++. Hopefully you're feeling a bit more informed, a bit more confident about, maybe even giving it a try yourself.
Remember, C++, it's more than a language. It's a way of thinking. It's about solving problems in a really elegant and efficient way. And who knows, maybe one day you'll use those skills to build the next big thing.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Until next time.